So we continue with our political party profiles. Today we chat to Azhar Khan. He is a councillor as well as the premier candidate for AlJama in KZN. Azhar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and welcome to Radio Islam International.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and assalamu alaikum to your listeners, and shukran for having me, Maulana.
Let me start off by asking you that what led to you joining AlJama? What was it about AlJama that attracted you?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think it goes back 10 years now, Maulana, in the 2014 elections, when we realized in KZN that there's a need for a Muslim party. So we had done some research and we found that AlJama existed, and we thought that let's look at the results of this party. And we found that AlJama, without any canvassing or work done in KZN, they were 5,000 votes short on gaining representation for the Muslim community. And we thought, okay, let's see how we can make a difference. And a few brothers from the Amzinto area decided let's try to work and canvass for AlJama in KZN. So that took place in 2015. We joined AlJama. We've set up structures in KwaZulu-Natal, and alhamdulillah, I've been serving in the local municipality since 2016, the local government elections. So this is my second term that I'm serving, and alhamdulillah, I'm also on the national structures of AlJama through the time that we have been involved. So basically, we wanted to see as a case, how can we assist the party to get to parliament.
Let's talk about the concept of a Muslim party within a secular democracy where Muslims are a minority. What does it mean to be a Muslim party? To what extent is it possible in a secular democracy to uphold the teachings of Islam?
I think we must go back and look at the history, and we will find history is full with pages where Muslims have been at the forefront of leading communities, whether it was in so-called non-Muslim communities or in Muslim areas. What we find is that as AlJama, we are guided by the Quran and Sunnah. We understand the constitution of South Africa lends itself to a secular state. However, we feel that as AlJama, we can influence and guide the community or the citizens of South Africa through the Quran and Sunnah. We may not achieve that overnight, and for us to run the country and to lead the country in accordance with Quran and Sunnah will take a long time. But we find that we need, at this moment in time, it's very, very important that we set the foundation for the next 50, 60 years, wherein the community as a whole will start embracing Islam. Islam is a growing religion and the fastest growing religion in the world. So once the communities and the citizenry of South Africa embraces Islam, we will find that it will be easier for them to accept the laws of the Sharia, and then we'll be able to implement it fully. So in this circumstances, or in the current circumstance we find ourselves in, it's very important that we influence the different laws and the legislation that is taking place by the Quran and Sunnah. When we were in education, we would say that to Islamatize the curriculum. How can we ensure that some message of Islam is going through the different forms of legislation that is taking place? So we need to Islamatize the communities, inshallah.
How would you convince the skeptics to say, okay, it's well and good, we wish AlJama well, but AlJama is too small a party to make a difference. I rather support one of the bigger parties. These smaller parties, you give them your vote, and they become lackeys of the bigger party anyway. Of late, I mean, there has been some criticism of AlJama's alliance with the ANC, for example, here in the city of Johannesburg. How would you respond to those skeptics?
Maulana, it's very simple. When you vote for these bigger parties, especially in an election where we are almost guaranteed to have a coalition or co-governing arrangements, then one must realize that when you give these big parties, the ANC, the DA, whoever it is, when you give them your vote, you are giving them absolute power to do what they want to do. You are telling them, take my vote, you have a full mandate from me to go out and implement your policies. And these policies are absolutely, I'll say it's anti-Islam, it's anti-morality. You are telling them, go and implement it. When you give your vote to a smaller party, when you give your vote to AlJama, you are telling AlJama, go take your seat at the table and influence those laws that in terms of what Islam is teaching us. Go and influence those laws and make sure that our constituency, the people that we are representing, the minorities of this country, are not left behind. When you give the major parties power, you are telling the major parties, go do what you want to do. But when you give Al-Jama the power to sit at the table and ensure that you are represented, you must remember that Al-Jama has an oversight over what they're doing. The ANC or the DA, whichever party we will be working with, will not have the absolute right and the absolute power to do what they want to do. They will have to come back to Al-Jama. They will have to come back to the smaller parties and say, we want to implement 1, 2, and 3. What are your thoughts? Then Al-Jama is then able to influence that decision making at that level. So it's all about having that voice in the corridors of power.
Now, AlJama has emphasized the concept of tangible hope in its approach to governance. Can you unpack that for us? What does it mean, tangible hope?
You know, we want to create societies where people are just hoping for something to come. We want to show that as Al-Jama, we have already been on the ground. We want to create programs which creates a tangible difference in the people's lives. And Alhamdulillah, we have done that in certain areas, and in KZN and Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and other parts, especially the rural areas. We have engaged in programs that have really changed the lives of people. You know, in the Eastern Cape, through the leadership of the Honorable Hanif Hendricks, we have ensured that there's a fishing village where people are able to fish and create a business for themselves, small, micro, and medium enterprises. In KZN, in the Stanger, Groutville area, we've assisted a co-op to start a peanut butter factory. We started a farming project in Pietermaritzburg, in the south coast, where I am based in the Oor district. We have a sewing project where we want to show that as Al-Jama, we don't want to just come there and give you a food hamper at the time of election, because many parties are doing that. However, we want to show that as Al-Jama, we want to create tangible difference in the people's lives, and by extension, then increasing the economic activity within the areas. And inshallah ta'ala, through the help and assistance of Allah, this will grow and the communities will be developed.
Now, what's different about your manifesto? Most voters don't read the manifestos of any party, right? They feel it's just a whole lot of theory. Most of the time, parties don't follow through. They're not even held accountable to what they promised in the previous manifesto. When the leadership of Al-Jama sat down to put together its manifesto, what was the thought process? What were you hoping to achieve?
You know, the thought process and what we are hoping to achieve is that we wanted to show in our manifesto that Al-Jama is already doing certain things. We have engaged, for example, in Parliament, we have engaged in legislation that benefits not only the Muslims, but benefit the non-Muslims also. So we've engaged in legislation in the council. We've been engaged in different work through the different leagues and structures of the party. We have done certain things. So when we set to plan the manifesto, at the top of the mind was let's plan a manifesto that continues the work that we've already started. So our promise to the community is that we have started 1, 2, and 3. Allow us and give us the opportunity to continue and finish that work, and ensure that once completed, South Africa will be a better place. You know, some of the points in the manifesto that we raise is the issue of employment. And when we say employment, we're not talking of just every other party will say, we want to create 5 million jobs, and the others will say we want to create 2 million. We are saying we're not going to give you a number, but we want to create jobs. We want to create an environment where jobs are able to be created. But as Al-Jama, we will enact legislation to say that there must be full employment with full social benefits. So there must be these things of housing and pension funds to assist the people. We can't have a community that's earning 3,000 Rand a month or 4,000 Rand a month and no benefits when they leave the work after 10, 15, 20 years. In some instances, they leave with absolutely nothing. So, you would have noticed a few days ago, I released a statement calling out the DA on this, to say that the DA want to scrap the minimum wage, but it's only going to benefit the liberalists. So as Al-Jama, we are saying, let's ensure that we don't just create jobs, but we create jobs that are sustainable and jobs that are decent. Where we come from in KZN, the issue of safety, and I'm sure the listeners they are aware of the riots that took place. So people are very concerned of personal safety, And as AlJama, we are one. That's one of our main manifesto points, to ensure that people's personal safety is taken care of. The other thing is that I know that in the city of Johannesburg and throughout the country, you can say, the issue of drinking water has
Mm.
become a problem, and the access to water. And we found that the Constitution of South Africa is very, very vague in comes to water. And the Constitution says that every person has the right to access water. So access water means that you have, as long as you have a standpipe or water 200 meters away from your home, then it's fine. The constitutional obligation has been fulfilled. So Al-Jama is saying no, there must be a right to water. Every
Yeah.
home must have water. Every yard must have access, must have water to their homes. So it's a right. We in the rural areas, Maulana, if you visit, and I'm sure you've come to places that have that experiences, where you'll find a young child, 8, 9, 10 years old, is fighting with the dog or the cow to take water from the river. It's absolutely, after 30 years of democracy, it's a shame that people
Yeah.
must fight with animals to drink water and have access to clean water.
So, Azhar, I mean, every political party will say during election period that they contesting to win and that they will do very well. But realistically speaking, what are your expectations? Last time around, you got one seat in parliament. This time around, what's your target, realistically speaking?
Realistically speaking, inshallah, we want to at least have 10 seats in the National Assembly, so that it increase our influence and allow us to do much more work within the country. And then we have contesting certain provinces. We have premier candidates in those provinces. The Western Cape is a serious, the campaign is very, very tough there, and we have very, very good and capable leaders who are contesting the election in the Western Cape, like in Gauteng and KwaZulu Natal. So I think these three provinces, it's in the Western Cape, obviously, to increase our representation in the provincial legislature, from one seat to maybe, the people are not going to vote for the Zionist parties there, and we hope that they will come to Al-Jama. So inshallah, to increase that to probably 10, 12 seats, and then we can hold the balance of power there in KwaZulu Natal at least, and Gauteng, that we want to at least gain representation for the Muslim community in the provincial legislatures, so that we can influence the decisions of the provincial governments, like we've been doing at the local level in these two provinces.
Azhar, shukran so much for your time and for talking to us. We really appreciate it. And all the best.
Shukran for having me. Shukran for having me, and keep us in your du'as. Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum wa
alaikum.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That's Al Jama's premier candidate in KZN, Azhar Khan.